Did you know that Washington State is one of the fastest growing states in all of America?
Fascinating.
Yeah, now that we're talking about it's not growing because of volcanic and like Hawaii where it's just expanding because of volcanoes.
We do have
It's-
volcanoes though.
It is population growth. Our volcanoes blow up and lose mass as opposed to gaining mass. But we're talking about population. So why is that? Why are we growing so fast?
I think it's because everyone can find a place to call home in Washington. And that's because Washington is so diverse. I mean, it's diverse climately, it's diverse in affordability, it's diverse geographically, it's diverse in lifestyle ability, if that's a word.
Could be. I'll go there with you.
Right, so if you are thinking you might want to move here, there is definitely a place for you here in Washington.
We're Joe and Charity. We're local realtors, and we help people just like you who are making the decision to move to the Northwest every week. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out on the number below. We'd love to help you.
So in this video, we are walking you through the 10 things that you absolutely need to know before moving to Washington State. Housing realities, climate differences from one side of the state to the other, and how tourism, traffic, and taxes will affect you if you decide to live here.
The first thing we're going to talk about is population and migration. And interestingly enough, if you're from a really big area, this might not sound like a big number to you, but Washington State just went over the 8 million resident marker.
Just in last year alone, we increased by over 84,000 people, and nearly 70,000 of those people came here from another area.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. There were babies born,
There were babies born.
but most of the people coming here are because they are choosing to.
That's right. And the primary areas that they're coming from is California, is Texas, is Idaho, and another neighboring state, Oregon. So it's just because we're better than all of those other states. Well, may or may not be true. However, we think that that's true, and hopefully you would like to know that as well.
And so did 70,000 other people.
That's right. That's right.
So King County, which is the largest county, the one that Seattle is in, led the numbers with 18,500 people that moved in. And from there, we had Pierce County, which is where the city of Tacoma is, Snohomish County, which is where the city of Everett is, Spokane County, which is where the city of Spokane is. They made that one easy. That's on the eastern side of Washington.
Right.
Clark County, which is down where Vancouver is, near the Oregon border, and Thurston County, which is right here where we live in Olympia. They collectively accounted for over 70% of everyone that was moving into the area. So that makes sense because these are the homes of the largest cities in Washington.
That makes sense.
In fact, where we are here in Thurston County, we saw 3,600 people coming to the area. And these people are coming for a variety of reasons. But first and foremost, we're going to share with you about the job market, which is one of the reasons why people are moving here.
Now, when we talk about the job market and economic growth and development, I think most of you are going to be familiar with Seattle and the Bellevue area of growing because of technology. We have Amazon, we have Microsoft, and other startup companies over the years that are in those areas. However, those aren't the only areas that are growing.
Right, so Boeing has been a major contributor to the job market for a long time. I was gonna say hundreds of years, but I don't think it's been that long. But since I can remember, which isn't 100 years, by the way, it's been a major contributor to the job market. So we've got different hubs for Boeing, starting up in Everett and down through Seattle and into the south region of King County. So quite a few jobs there. And then, as Joe said, the technology jobs don't all center in that area around Bellevue and around Seattle, but a lot of them do. But there are other areas that are becoming stronger in technology. In fact, Olympia, Thurston County, just this last year went up to number 8 in all of the nation for a new increase in technology jobs. So it's happening all over the place here.
Another major employer is going to be the health industry, so the hospitals and all the ancillary businesses serve those, as well as the military bases. There's JBLM, there's Fairchild on the other side of the state, and there's some naval bases around here as well. So there is a lot going on in that sector as well.
They also employ quite a few civilians in ancillary jobs. So we definitely have a lot going on in regards to the connection to the military bases. Now we also have down here in Olympia, we have the state capitol. So the state capitol in our area employs over 30% of everyone who lives in this county. So quite a lot of jobs that are going on down in this region. Now, we didn't talk very much about Spokane, except we did mention that they have great medical facilities over there that are major employees, and that is one of their major employers as well. Of course, you have the school systems and the universities that are always high on the list for employers in the area.
Now, I know you're thinking to yourself, okay, so there are employment opportunities for me, but where am I going to live? Great question. We're going to jump into that next.
So the median price in Washington State is about $615,000. Now, Washington State, as we said, is very diverse. So you're going to be able to find small towns in central, eastern, and even western Washington where you can find a house for under $300,000, but you're also going to be in those really urbanized areas where you're going to be spending above $1 million. So it all averages out to about that $615,000. We're going to break down the major counties, the ones that most people are moving to, so that you can understand what the price points generally are, because that might help you decide where you're going to land.
So we're going to start with King County, which is where Seattle is at, and it is nearly $1.3 million to buy a home in Seattle. Of course, you're going to have some of them are going to be less expensive if you're looking at a condo and those type of things. However, be prepared to spend a lot of money. The second one on that list is going to be Snohomish. That's the second most expensive place, and that's where Everett is and Lake Stevens, just north of Seattle. And you're at basically $1 million flat for the average price of home in that area. Then you kind of go into a little bit more affordable areas. Now, I'm not saying a lot more affordable, but a little bit more affordable, and that's going to be in Pierce County. It's at about $600,000, $596,000 to be exact, the average price point. Next on our list of affordable is going to be right here at home for us at $544,000, and that's going to be in Thurston County. Right below us is going to be Clark County, where Vancouver is. It's going to be $527,000. And then on the other side of the state where Spokane is at, Spokane City is $448,000 for the average price. So it is the most affordable, I want to say by far, definitely by far when you compare it to Seattle. So just to kind of give you a heads up what to expect in the housing market in each of those areas.
Now, as we said, there is a lot more diversity than just what we see over here on the west side and Spokane. There's a lot of state in between.
Yes.
You've got Yakima that's in central Washington. You've got Ellensburg. You've got plenty of small towns. And so these are just the ones that most people are moving to. But if you need some numbers on some of those other areas, we'd be happy to help you. Just in the comments below, comment what county you're interested in, and we can get the numbers for you.
Now, obviously, housing is one of the biggest rocks most people are concerned about when they're moving into a region. However, we want to dive into some of the other cost of living elements so that you're aware of those as well.
According to Forbes, Washington ranks number 8 in affordability. And that's not like number 8 as in we want to be number 1. It's actually we don't want to be number 1. Number 1 is the least affordable. So we are number 8, but in front of us are places like, you can imagine, California, New York, New Jersey, actually, Hawaii, Alaska, Massachusetts, and right around Washington, D.C., Maryland. So we're up there with the higher ones.
But we're not number 1, which is good. The only time I'm going to say it's not going to be number 1 is right now.
The great news is that we are number 3 in average income. So there are only 2 states ahead of us whose average salary is higher, which I think is very surprising. New York being one of them and Massachusetts being the other. And we are almost neck and neck with New York. So
that's what I'm saying.
Their
We're
cost
getting
of
it
living
done.
is so much more than ours.
We're so much better than New York.
So much better, so much better. And you know what we are number 1 in?
Not sports.
No, not sports, unfortunately. But we are number 1 in extra money to spend on whatever you want. Forbes subtracts the total cost of living from the average salary, and that makes up your disposable income. And we are number 1, which I did not know that before, and I feel pretty good about us. So back to number 1, we are number 1, which is great, which is awesome. So you can look at the numbers and think, oh gosh, it's so expensive to live there, but the wages are higher, so
there you have it.
We're the best.
We're the best. That's why people are moving here.
That's right.
Now, speaking of saving money, surprisingly enough, here's another category we're not at the top of the list, and that has to do with taxation. So we're going to jump into that next, tell you a little bit about what to expect on the tax side.
If there can be any good news when we talk about taxes, this is it. Washington is only one of 9 other states that doesn't have any state income tax. So that is really a very big reason why people are moving here. In fact, a lot of people tell us that when they're heading into retirement, they want to be in a state that's not going to keep taxing them on the money they already made. So Washington is the place to be.
That's right. I have to throw this out there for all of our whiskey fans out there, just to let you know, we do have an over 20% tax on liquor. So if you're from a different state, i.e. Alabama, and that might be a little bit less down there, but up here, you do have to expect to pay for that a little bit higher. And also just in general, the city taxes are going to be a little bit higher as you kind of go through, especially in King County around Seattle. But once you move out of that, or if that's not where you're heading, it is a little bit lower, a little bit more affordable. Just put that on your radar.
Yeah, so that overall is basically the state sales tax. And on top of that, every city adds their own little tax on top of it. So you can look online and look at all the numbers, but yep, King County is the best in taxes.
Of course, taxes are just one element to consider moving into the area. Another one has to do with transportation. So what's it like getting around in Washington State?
We are not like one of those states that relies heavily on public transportation. We're just too big, spread out. If you went from all the way over on the peninsula, all the way basically to the Idaho border, you'd be about 7 hours. So you're not getting public transportation very well. Maybe take a Greyhound or something like that. But most of the time, you are going to be driving in your own car, unless you're in a county like King County that has a lot more infrastructure in regards to like light rail and those kind of things. But all of the major cities have buses and all of that. But to get around all over the region, you're definitely going to be driving in your own car.
Obviously, we have an international airport, SeaTac. Spokane's got a great airport as well, very conveniently located. So getting around the state that way is fairly easy. Some cities like New York or Chicago that have a subway system, we don't have that here, and it's really probably not something that we're going to get.
And besides flying up in the air, we want to get you across the water when you need to. So we have a very extensive ferry system, which is quite fun, which people who are landlocked and move here are usually pretty excited to get on the ferries, drive your car right on, get your car right off on the other side. It's pretty fun and it's beautiful and it's affordable and it's a really great part of the public transportation that we have here.
It is kind of fun. I will tell you this. It is fun just to jump on a ferry, go out to one of the islands or just across Puget Sound, spend a day, grab a lunch, grab a dinner on one of the islands and head back later that afternoon on a ferry. I think it's a little bit quintessential. So you want to definitely put that on your radar, something to do just for fun, if for no other reason.
So with all the driving, you're probably going to want to know, what is it like to buy gas here? And unfortunately, we are pretty high on the list for the price of gas. In fact, on top of whatever the gas price is to start with, we've got a 49.4% tax on top of that. And the legislators are right now considering raising that again, unfortunately. We're hoping that they don't, but I guess I don't really pay attention to it. If I were to travel to another state, I'd be able to compare it. So when I'm out of state, I realize how much more our gas is. But when I'm in state, I'm really only looking at, oh, look, it went up 10 cents or it went down 20 cents. Based on what's happening in the whole nation. So once you get here, you're going to kind of get adjusted to it.
Now, with all that driving around, you're probably going to want to know about traffic. And here's where we have some good news for you. We are not as bad as California at all.
Not at all. In fact, most of Washington has no traffic at all because it's just so spread out.
Yeah.
Of course, if you are in the major areas like Seattle, it's bad news.
Yeah. I-5 between basically Olympia, Tacoma, Seattle, all the way up to Everett and further north. There's a lot of traffic on that, and each area has a little bit heavier or lighter amount of traffic in that. For sure, down in the Olympia area, our traffic is very mild compared to downtown Seattle, especially during some type of event, whether it be a sporting event or a concert or whatever it might be. On the other side of the state, over in Spokane, they really don't have a lot of traffic at all in comparison, for example, to Seattle. So just be aware of that. You can check on these things online to get greater detail, but just be aware there is a little bit of traffic, usually just around the major cities.
So if you don't want to have traffic at all, leave us a comment and ask us, where can I go and not have any traffic? Spokane is a really large city and they don't have rush hour. I mean, they've got some more cars on the road, but it's not rush hour.
It's not the same as Seattle or trying to get across from Seattle to Bellevue. I remember doing that commute years and years ago, and it was a bugger to say the best. And that was, 25, 30 years ago. I really enjoy the traffic. Not that I enjoy traffic, but I enjoy what's happening in the Olympia area, Tacoma area for the most part, especially because they've done so much road construction, bringing it up to speed. Most of the areas, I would say, unless you're from a real rural place, are not going to feel like heavy traffic outside of Seattle proper.
So you may not be driving just yourself around. You might be driving all those kiddos. So if you do have a family, you're probably wondering, what are the school systems like? So that's what we're going to chat about next.
Sounds good. I would say this is a great place where Washington actually shines. In each of your major cities, you will find, and look online to check this out, wonderful school systems in each of the major areas. You have great ones in Seattle and in Bellevue, the Kirkland area. You have wonderful ones in Tacoma, University Place. You have it down here in Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater as well. Spokane's got some fantastic schools in it as well. So you're going to want to look online to get the details specifically, but I would definitely say from both experience as well as what our clients have told us over the years, really great school systems in all of those areas. And make sure you do a little bit of research, but you'll find something that you're looking for, I'm quite certain.
In fact, there's over 2,500 public schools and 755 private schools. So there is a lot of options for you. We have a school guide that's specifically for Pierce County and Thurston County, the areas that we service. So if you think you might be moving to one of those areas, just make a comment of which county you would like that for, and it's going to give you all the details, not only about the private schools and the public schools, but also about the preschools in the area.
Of course, we have great universities in Washington as well. You have UW up in Seattle, you have Gonzaga in Spokane, you have WSU in Pullman.
You have PLU in Tacoma, you've got Eastern in Cheney, which is by Spokane. You've got Western in Bellingham. You've got Central in Ellensburg. And you've got private universities all over the place. That's some of the larger state and private universities, but there are plenty more in all the major areas as well, and very highly rated. If you're thinking, I want to get to Washington and then I want to be in-state, so my kids have in-state tuition, then you're going to want to look into those more. And you also are going to want to look into what the rules are for in-state tuition. I know when we moved back here, we had lived here a long time, moved away for a short time, moved back, and the guidelines for in-state tuition were a little bit stricter here than they were in some other states, so make sure you look into that.
Well, now that might sound all fine and dandy, but I've heard some crazy things about the weather. So let's jump into the weather, because it is a tale of two cities, or two sides of the state.
It sure is. So over here, it's green. And then when we get to Spokane, it's this color plus a little green. So what that means is it's definitely rainy on this side of the state. And once you get to the Cascades and cross over the mountains, it gets drier. And then when you get close to Spokane, it starts to get green because there's some more mountains and stuff in that way as you go into Idaho. Now, we get about 50 inches of rain here in Olympia. It can sound like an awful lot, but we have a beautiful sunny day right now.
That's right.
And even on the days when it's rainy, it doesn't rain all the time. It's not constantly downpouring. So it's very livable, and you give up the brown for the green, and that's what you get is the rain.
If you're looking for a little bit more arid climate, then you're going to be definitely central Washington, where you have Ellensburg and Yakima, and then all the way down into the Tri-Cities. You get back over to Spokane, it's going to be a little bit greener because you're at the foothills for sure of the mountain range, and you're going to get that. However, it still would be considered more of a dry climate compared to Western Washington. Just to be aware, depending on what you're looking for in your next place to call home.
Now, some of you might want to avoid snow or might want to be near the snow. So we do get snow on the western side of Washington, not as much as on the eastern side. Spokane most years gets a really good amount of snow, and a lot of the central areas do as well. All of that on that side gets colder in the winter than we do over here. We're more of a temperate climate.
Yeah, for sure. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, weather is something I necessarily can't control, but what I can control is what's happening to my health. So we're going to jump into that, the healthcare system, to let you know what to expect if you move here.
The great news about healthcare in Washington is we rank 34th in the nation, and that number is really good. That means that 33 states are more expensive for healthcare than we are. So we are in a great position for affordability.
And Washington, of course, has several highly rated medical institutions.
So you've got on this side, you may have heard of Harborview Medical Center, which is a world-class medical center and trauma center. We also have a fantastic children's hospital, Seattle Children's Hospital. and all the way down into Tacoma and all the way up into Everett, down into Olympia and Vancouver. All the cities on this side have highly rated medical centers, and you are very close in proximity to Seattle for the highest rated ones. You can get there if you have some specialty needs.
Of course, then you have the other side of the state in Spokane, and Spokane is well known for their wonderful medical field as well.
They have Providence Medical Center, Multicare, and Deaconess, and they also have Shriners Medical Center, which is an amazing organization that treats children and has been doing so there for many, many years.
And finally, we're going to get to tourism and recreation. So when you're done working and you've done fighting traffic and you're ready to get out of the rain, what are you going to do on a sunny, great day? Well, we're about ready to tell you.
You know, a place is great when there is a lot of tourism, because that means people want to come here, and that is what's true about Washington. There's over 183,000 jobs just dedicated to tourism, which brings in over $21 billion into our state. So I think we
keep visiting, we like you.
Yes, we got it going on here. There's a lot to do. Now, most of you are probably going to think of Seattle when you think of that. The Seattle Space Needle, the waterfront there, all those wonderful things that you can do in Seattle. But not just Seattle has tourism going on, it's actually all throughout the state. And a lot of it has to do with our wonderful outdoor recreation.
You have the Olympic Peninsula, and this draws so many people to it because of the national park, because of the whole national rainforest, all the hiking trails, all the beauty surrounding it. Down through the Tri-Cities area, the Columbia River, there's lots of tourists that happen there, and into Spokane. All of these areas are wonderful outdoors, I would even say meccas. Different type of beauty, different type of exploration, but so many things for you to come visit and enjoy.
So Joe mentioned a few of the national parks, but we also have Mount Rainier National Park. We've got Mount St. Helens, which is quite an experience to go and find out more about how the top blew off. We've got besides those national parks, we also have plenty of state parks and wonderful places to explore if you're into hiking or mountain climbing. You have this huge range of mountains that's pretty much all up and down the west side.
That's right.
And then if you want to get out and mountain bike, of course we have that over here, but Spokane is really well known for its mountain biking area. In fact, Joe used to spend hours mountain biking over there every day.
Riverside State Park, amazing place. And then we have outdoor recreation in the winter as well, with ski resorts, snowshoeing, snowmobiling, whatever you might be into, the winter sports, there's opportunities for you for sure.
And then we've got water sports, because we have so much water, so you can get out on this side on the Puget Sound, but we are full of lakes.
And then through central Washington, you'll find the Columbia River. There's several reservoirs that are on it that are amazing recreation outdoors, absolutely up the wazoo, which is amazing, all the way over to Spokane as well. So you have Spokane River. It has also some reservoirs on it for you to get out, play in the water, whatever you might be into, you're gonna have some options for that.
So there you have it, the top 10 things you need to know when considering moving to Washington State. And we know there's a lot to juggle. So if you're thinking, man, I'm not quite sure if this piece fits me, or I'm not quite sure if the housing's gonna work for me, or maybe the climate here, or maybe the jobs there, like we said before, we are here to help you. Feel free to reach out. Just text us or call us or send us an email.
And you're gonna wanna stick around and watch the next video, because we're gonna dive deeper into the top 5 cities in Washington that you might wanna consider if you're considering moving here.